All right, guys, welcome to the Growth Mastermind Group Zoom call hosted by myself, Tony, and Peter every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Today, we have the pleasure of presenting to you guys Magda Khalifa. So in true tradition, I'm going to go ahead and just to read a quick little bio here. So she is the founder of the Freedom Triangle. She's also first generation American, U.S. Army combat veteran, business owner, speaker, and best-selling author of American Dream, Discipline, Resilience, Endurance, Adaptability, and Mentorship to Succeed and Win in Life. Love it. So with that, welcome Magda.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Peter. And it's great to see everybody on this Sunday evening and to be here. I hope I can provide some value for all of you tonight.
Absolutely. Looking very forward to it. So I always like to ask in the beginning. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, your journey, and how you got to be where you are today.
Sure. So life started rather ordinary. I grew up in the North Jersey area, went to college, worked, was married, had a normal, regular type of life. And unfortunately, on September 11th, 2001, I was in the area, witnessed it, and also my husband at the time, we're no longer together, but he lost 200 coworkers that day. They had offices on the 101st floor. He wasn't there that day, but it was very personal for our family, and it was a very difficult time. So he was formerly a Marine. So I felt the need at that point to go and serve my country. So I enlisted at 29 years old into the U.S. Army Reserve and asked to be put on the first battle roster to head over to the war effort. So I had a lot of fire in my belly, and going over and being part of something greater than myself made me feel really good. But what I was not prepared for was the transition after 2 tours in Iraq, returning home and experiencing a variety of health issues and transition issues, and not knowing exactly what was going on exactly. So that journey of darkness was about 8 years. It took about 8 years to punch through, but I was able to do so. And in doing so, I figured out a few things along the way. And I was compelled last year, it made sense to write my memoir and share my story and the success path that helped me get ahead in life, literally turn my life around, reclaim the good things from the past, and grow past the difficulties and the struggles that I encountered and faced. So I wrote the book geared towards younger generations, but I believe there's value for people overall who, aside from the history that's in there, they're able to look at an example of struggle and the steps that were taken, the steps that did not fail me along the way, and hopefully be inspired or moved to follow their own path, but using some of these clues and pointers to help them get through the difficult times so that they can really discover where they want to be and move from the past in search of future. I say reconcile their past, because that's a lot of it has to do with you making the decision to have a better life and a better outlook.
That's amazing. So the book is more like an autobiography you mentioned?
So I wrote it as a memoir. So chronologically, it's written that way. However, I embedded self-help throughout the book in each chapter, because I felt it's important to more than just tell a story, but to explain, well, this was the teaching moment for me in life, and this is what happened next. And there were distinct areas that I believe I was able to discover on my own. Along the line, of course, I had mentors at the end of it, and I still have mentors today, of course, but that really made a big difference, and that's why I felt it was important to share these tips. So when I mentioned the Freedom Triangle, I introduced it to the world in the book. So it's first discussed in there, and I don't get too far in depth, but I wanted people to realize these are the different points: time freedom, health freedom, and mind freedom. And if they are deficient in a particular area, they are able to work on that area for themselves. And there's a lot of power in solving it yourself. And I talk about how I was able to solve things by myself. And not that there's anything wrong with having help and assistance if it's the right kind of help and assistance. But at the same point, some of us don't have the luxury of that. We don't have other humans at a given point in time. So we want to be able to rely on ourselves to navigate through the treacherous waters and pull through.
No, yeah, that's amazing, and I just want to tip my hat off to you and say thank you for your service. I train jujitsu, and where I train with a lot of law enforcement, Army veterans, and military people. So yeah, I just want to say definitely thank you for your service. So I think that's all. I didn't, because I've seen you around like in different interviews, especially I think lately. And I didn't know you had written a book. That's really, really cool. So I think that's pretty awesome. So good that everybody knows. And where could they find your book? Just any like Amazon or?
Yeah, it's available on Amazon. There are a lot of other books with the first two words, American Dream. So if they go to americandreamthebook.com, it has the direct links to mine on Amazon, available in 3 different formats.
Awesome. One question I'd like to ask our speakers here, our guests, is what do you think has been the most difficult challenge you've faced on your road to success so far, of course?
Absolutely. So I think initially it was not having guidance, particularly upon returning from war in 2007. There was no guidebook. We have a lot of resources right now that did not exist back then. We have a lot more answers and
Mm,
solutions and pathways. So no complaints. When in the absence of something, you go and find it, create it, and that's what I did. And I wouldn't have the perspectives that I have today had I not gone through that. If things were a little bit more ample and resourceful when I returned, I wouldn't have had that growth spectrum over the following years. So I'm grateful for that struggle, as we all should be, because that's what defines us and makes us who we are. And when you realize that, no one's perfect and no one's always had it easy, but when you are able to literally solve your own problems in your sleep, that's a very powerful feeling. And it gives you a lot of confidence to really search forth in life with anything that you really want to do. And you don't need anybody else's permission to do that. We all have it within ourselves. So to answer your question, yes, when I came back in 2007, that was probably the most unsure I was of myself, because I didn't have answers. And that was the toughest struggle.
I hear that a lot, especially from like my buddies that have done like tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and it's like they get back and they just kind of feel like a sense of like what now. So I think a lot of them kind of gravitate to like martial arts, like in my case, jujitsu, or some transition into law enforcement or other things, because it's almost like they have something missing. They kind of want that almost like excitement, or I don't know what it is. I mean, I've never been military, so it's hard for myself to be put in their shoes, but just kind of like their feedback from them. So do you think it's kind of like a thing that you kind of go, you're in this like environment, then you come back to being like a regular civilian, it's kind of hard to kind of like get back into like normal society, so to speak?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a very widespread feeling amongst veterans, and for a lot of reasons. You're out there running a gun and you have the most important mission. You're part of something, greater than yourself that you cannot even describe
Mm,
to people who don't have that experience. I mean, you could describe with detail, but even, bless their hearts, they're still not going to understand. And, that's a common theme that I do hear from other veterans, which is why it's a self-licking ice cream cone type of problem, because if they don't have other veterans with the similar experiences to be able to trust and talk to, they're on their own, or they find themselves on their own trying to figure out how to navigate things, because people could have the best intentions and really mean well and really want to help, but if they just don't understand a scenario, they just don't understand the scenario. And I'll peel back this layer one step further. If you are a prisoner, either a prisoner of war or a prisoner of some sort of situation in a foreign country for a period of time, like, there are far fewer people who have found themselves in those situations, as Americans, but can we even imagine what it's like? They can tell us their story. There's a great book called 5 Years to Freedom by Colonel Nick Rowe, who was captured and held in Vietnam. And he does a great job of explaining it. But of course, even with the detail that he goes into, it's still, none of us can really understand what it was like. Whereas if he spoke with someone else in the same situation, they would get it, so that was part of the problem, if you will, or so, I don't want to say problem, but it was some of the constraints that added to the feeling of being overwhelmed and not knowing how to get out of that situation.
Yeah, very interesting. So what do you think? Because we have a lot of business people here. I know, Enrique, David, all entrepreneurs. So maybe somebody that didn't come back from war or from the military, just somebody maybe struggling like in their business, they're not sure what to do. Maybe the COVID has hit them like really hard. Like from your experience, since you're in that situation, very extreme situation, like what are some things they could do to kind of like help them like move forward and kind of get out of a rut or out of a plateau or whatever it is that they're experiencing?
Sure, that's a great question. And the beauty about, living today in 2020, we have so many resources that are widely available. If anybody has a Wi-Fi connection, you could stay inside your house and find answers. I'm not saying that's the optimal way, but there are so many resources that are out there that are available. So the thing is, are you willing to search for them? And if you don't find them right away, are you willing? Are you committed to seek them out or solve issues yourself? I think it's a combination of both, which is why I do speak about in the book how mentorship has helped me exponentially, especially in recent years. However, having that resilience of having gone through struggle and figuring out things on my own, which is something I'm promoting for folks to try to do, really sets you up for success in the long run, so that say you're an entrepreneur and you're faced with a problem that no one else seems to have exactly the same, you're able to navigate it because you have and resources. I think the chipmunks are back.
Yeah, I muted Peter because some interference and chipmunk noises were coming in. So, I'll unmute him in a second. So,
They
sorry
want to
about
be
that.
fashion. But and that's the thing. So specifically, of course, you can Google, strings and search terms and be part of different groups. But I believe everything has structure. So if you analyze, if you speak to somebody that doesn't know anything, say even about business, they can still help you dissect and navigate and figure out the root cause of what the problem is. And this is something that I've learned for myself and that I wrote about in the book, and that ties to the freedom triangle, is sometimes what we think are problems are not really the problems. Okay. We have to get to the root cause. I'm sorry?
No, that was Peter again.
Okay. We have to get to the root cause of what the problem is exactly to be able to figure out the solution. Otherwise, we're wasting time, we're wasting resources. So certainly, we have to get out of our own head sometimes. So you want to be able to speak with somebody else and, really have them take an introspective look at what you're presenting. And a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we don't want to hear what we don't want to hear. I literally had a situation just this week where someone presented a concept of a business that they are very enthusiastic about building, and I pointed out certain truths, holes, if you will, with the plan,
Mm,
and sometimes folks don't take that the right way,
yeah.
and that's the thing. We have to be able to face the truth. So I experienced that in my life when I started opening up my ears to mentorship. And I started listening to what these mentors were speaking about. And then that's when I realized I needed to take a look in the mirror. And I realized that some of the problem was myself. And the quicker you rip that Band-Aid off, the quicker you can move past it and the quicker you can solve what the issues are. So you have to, take the first step and say, do I really want to know? Do I really want these answers? Because if not, maybe you're not committed to whatever that situation is. If you're an entrepreneur or whatever other problem you're trying to solve, could be a personal problem, could be a relationship problem, whatever the case is. But we really need to be able to look at our own souls, see what's inside, because a lot of times we tell ourselves lies. So getting back to the freedom triangle, if any of the guests on here tonight go to thefreedomtriangle.com, I have a free download available called 3 Secrets to Finding the Freedom Triangle. And it's interactive. You can print it. You can take a few days, take as much time as you need to reflect on your answers and go through the 3 questions. And I think those are the first steps to really finding out where you are at, where are you deficient at, what you may need to improve. So this can be applied to your life, to your business.
And that's the Freedom Triangle. Oh, I think I misspelled it. Thefreedomtriangle.com, correct? Yeah, my spelling is not on point this evening. Sorry, one moment. There we go. All right. And guys, if you have any questions for Magda, raise your hand, drop it in the chat. Sure she'll be able, or more than happy to answer any question that anybody in here has. So no, absolutely great stuff. And I think a lot of times too, just, I hear it a lot in like different mentors I've had in my life or books that I read. It's like getting out of your own way. A lot of times it's just you. It's maybe kind of like blocks that you have, or, you just don't want to accept, certain, feedback, and the feedback you take it the wrong way and becomes, you take it almost like criticism, and there's pushback, and then you never grow as a person because you don't want to accept, the feedback. There's always, so I think it's a lot of, I totally agree with that 100%. Sometimes it's kind of like you get uncomfortable, and people, I think humans just like by nature don't like to feel uncomfortable. So it's like an immediate reaction, but you kind of have to continue working on, always being coachable, never being above anybody. The minute you're not coachable anymore, you're going to stop growing. Grant talks about that. I know you're in the Grant Cardone 10X ecosystem, with Brandon Doss and all the other great leaders that he's had in the growth cons. And I hear that kind of like a recurring theme, in that ecosystem as well. So yeah, I agree with that 100%.
It's absolutely, it's true. It's 100% true. And we don't realize how much we are our own worst enemies, but sometimes we need people to, or we need it to be pointed out to us, and yep, I see some agreement there, and it's true. But the beauty about it, when you are able to stand alone and have that conviction and truly not care what other people think. You can care about people, but if you truly do not care about being liked and loved and appreciated and part of whatever group or tribe or segment, if you can get to that point, you are full of power, and use that power for good. And it's a great feeling to have gotten to that point. But I wouldn't have gotten to that point had I not struggled, and I think I finally became comfortable being uncomfortable. And if I am comfortable for too long now, something's wrong. And looking to grow in a different way. So it's a different way of looking at life, but it's very empowering. And we need that, because look at everything everybody's collectively dealing with today. Nobody has all the answers, and no one can predict the future, for sure, for certain, not on a wide scale. But you can control certain things. You can control your thoughts, your approach, your attitude, your perception. But to be able to do that, you have to steer clear of distractions and anything that gets in the way.
100%. Well, I shouldn't say barely, but because of my job, I do some social media marketing and sales for my job. So I kind of have to go on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram all day and post, interact with leads and customers and stuff like that. But I try to avoid the rest. It is so negative. And it's like you hear all these extreme sides from the left and the right, and the COVID and death and destruction. It's like, I can't do it. Like, I don't really watch cable TV as it is. I just watch mostly like Netflix and Amazon, but social media could be a poison. I mean, it really, like, good people, smart people that I know are just being, I don't want to say manipulated, but like really affected by it. Like, I see them saying things that they would never say if I were to see them like in real life. It's crazy.
So a lot of this, oops, I lost my little chat screen. I think you're making a question. Oh, where did it go? The turning point to see results. Okay, Pete, I will get to that in 1 second. One point I want to bring up is that there are a lot of smart entities out there that are taking advantage of the climate right now and manipulating people and causing people to second guess themselves and to really change their behaviors because their behaviors are not grounded and solid. Okay,
Mm.
that's happening to a lot of folks. So we need to be able to get to a point in life where we let our values be our compass,
Mm.
so that regardless of the environment, regardless of the situation we find ourselves in as individuals, regardless of how many people are around you, it doesn't matter. You know, you can make your own mind when it comes to things. And when we're younger, we're impressionable. Absolutely. I was impressionable when I was younger. And at this point, not so much. At this point, my filter level is extremely high. I'm not just talking about news, but even folks that I do listen to, I always listen with a filter because you have to have your own individual original thought. And if you don't do that, in times when the environment is trying to, sway you and persuade you, you run the risk of being marginalized as a person and losing that individuality and originality and who you are and what you believe in. And that's not success. That's not 10x. That's not anything good at all. I think we could all agree.
So true. So very true.
There was a question, a turning point. What happened on my screen here? What is the turning point moment when you start to see results? Yes. So for myself, and I discussed in the book, is the first part was when I was able to achieve health freedom, or at least the first portion of health freedom. And so I define health freedom as there's two parts to it. There is the lack of dependency on, substance, be it prescribed or unprescribed or chemical or illegal, or even the additives that they add to our food. So I essentially went through the process of cleaning up what I was eating. I thought I was eating healthy, and this was 9, 10, 11 years ago, and cleansed my body of all these toxins that they don't affect everybody, but they certainly were affecting me. So that was the first step. And then the second part is the optimization, supercharging your body so that you are using food as fuel and nutrition to heal the body. And I do discuss many different health issues that I was experiencing that I was able to overcome because of my consumption. And it wasn't just food, okay, but it was also environment, where I lived, what was around me, the elements I was exposed to. Because as a veteran who served in war, we were exposed to a lot of elements that affected our health.
Mm.
So if you don't do anything about those elements because you don't know, of course you're going to have health issues. Even if you're physically, you appear healthy and you can perform, you're still not healthy on the inside. And the beauty about today, there is so much information. So I do discuss, functional medicine, which is, again, getting to the root cause, so of what's going on in the body. And there's just so much information and resources that are available out there today. So that's the first step is, if you're not sleeping, if you're not able to solve problems in your sleep, you're probably not getting restful enough sleep. And I remember when I got to a point, this was a big turning point for me. I hadn't dreamed. I had had good dreams in 7, 8 years. And when I finally got to that point where I was able to have good dreams, relaxing, beautiful dreams, it was very powerful. It was surreal. It was cathartic, because I had forgotten what that was like. So if you're not at that point, that could be a starting point for you. Look at obtaining health freedom. And it's not going to be an overnight journey for most. Usually it's going to take some time. But the good news is you can attain it. And I'm still improving it as time goes on as well, for sure. So that was the health freedom was the first part that really made a difference in my life. Changed my makeup, my physical makeup, because you're either helping your chromosomes and DNA live long and prosper, or you're reducing the livelihood of those cells. So we can look at it from an anti-aging standpoint. Why do some people, I at this point in my life, I feel I look more youthful and have more energy than I did 20 years ago. That's kind of bizarre, but not really.
Absolutely. No, great stuff. I saw another question from Peter here. So Peter asks, what are the 3 most valuable skills that you think is needed for success?
Discipline, endurance, adaptability, and mentorship. So 5, not 3, but but I really do believe those things are important. If you don't have the discipline, you don't have the commitment to do what needs to be done, what's difficult when the going gets tough. If you don't have resilience built up, that means getting back to what we were saying earlier about when there are forces and elements trying to persuade you and knock you off your steady state of conviction. If you don't have that resilience, you're going too bold. You're going to hit the easy button. Okay. And endurance, you have to realize life is long. We are all going to go through difficult times, certainly as business owners. A lot of people here are business owners or want to become a business owner. So it will happen. Like, you will have bad times. But if you have that core conviction defined and you let your values be your compass, you're going to be able to navigate through that. And it's not going to be so difficult. And, of course, adaptability and mentorship. Adaptability is essential because if you don't adapt, you're going to become obsolete and get run over. And that's not just for business. That's for everything that's out there in life. Then mentorship, of course, we understand the value of mentorship. You are not going to become the best version of yourself if you don't have mentors pulling you along. You're just not, because we don't realize our limits. Roger Bannister was the first person to break the 4-minute mile. And after he did that, many people broke the 4-minute mile. So he was someone that was able to do that on his own. However, all the other folks, once they saw that, he was a mentor to them. He inspired them, and then they were able to do it. But they probably, all the other person, the second and third and fourth and everybody else who's done it since may not have done it had he not done it first. So, mentorship is definitely important. And, good mentors, of course, you want to find ones that you click with and connect with and that resonate with you, because that way you feel, at least I know the feeling, when I'm in the room with the right mentors, I feel like I'm in the wrong room, but I want to be in that room, and I am in the right room because they make me feel let me rephrase that. I let myself feel very insignificant compared to what they have achieved, but it's not a competition, but they will say something, okay, that will speak to me every single time I go to a mastermind with my mentors. I hear something, and I wrote about a few of those in the book American Dream, specifically what I heard, what I needed to hear that helped me look in the mirror and identify that I needed to do something to get to the next level in life or in business. So that's the kind of relationship you want to have. You want to have that ability to pick up those cues. And the magic about that is sometimes you may have heard that statement or that example previously, but you were not ready to receive the message. And that's okay. And that's why mentorship needs to be continuous and ongoing. Because if you feel you've heard all you needed, well, there are probably other messages as you grow and develop as a person. There are other messages out there that can really help you become the best version of yourself. So anytime someone feels stuck, they really need to mentor up and find themselves in an uncomfortable state, because that's how they will grow.
Very interesting. And what do you think about, like, do you think it's always good to have, I've always heard it's good to have maybe between 1 to 3 mentors, or, people you're kind of plugged in with, or you follow, or what have you. Do you think it's good from time to time to change those mentors, or it's better, more beneficial to stick with the same ones for like a longer period of time?
If you're getting results, I would keep doing what gets you results. I personally find, I'm fortunate. I've found the ones that speak to me and get me to get results. But I do keep an open ear towards other mentors and what they have to say and offer. And at this point, getting back to the ability of being able to filter things. There's value in anything a mentor has to say. However, it may not be applicable value to you in your particular situation in that particular time.
100%. I see another question here from Peter. Let's see. When you are down, do you have any ritual or way to pick yourself up and get back on track?
So it does not happen often. However, I will say that this year it's happened a couple times and it didn't last long. It was a situation where, circumstances are beyond my control, and, things that you do not expect would ever changed. And so thankfully, I'm able to think logically through things. And I gave myself the grace to recognize that I may not find the answer that particular moment. And as frustrating as that was for myself, because I'm high performance, I knew that if I just took a break for a moment, a pause, good night's sleep, I could address it the next day. And one of those times I literally was able to address the situation in my sleep. So what do? Is I tell myself, look, you're going to figure this out. Don't beat yourself up if you don't have the answer right away. And I knew that if I continued not to have the answer and continue not to have to make headway, that I can turn to others and ask them for guidance or for help. And it's okay to do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Thankfully, I did not need to in those situations. I was able to find answers. So what I would recommend to people is, first of all, breathe. A lot of folks get overwhelmed because life can be overwhelming for sure, but you need to have a clear head to be able to think logically and to find those solutions. And, even if you're not discovering those solutions or developing them yourself, if you're not thinking clearly, if you're thinking emotionally, you're not going to be able to allow the message that a mentor or a friend or a peer is trying to help you with to understand. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. You have to be receptive. I can't agree with that anymore. So let me see if I can unmute Peter, because he's been kind of quiet here. Let's see
You said the chipmunks.
let's go visit Peter. Hold on. Let me see if I can mute him. I don't want to hijack the meeting here. Hold on.
Can you hear me?
Hey, welcome back, sir.
But I was putting back to quiet. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna be trying to do anything to be sounding like a chipmunk. Oh, yeah. Well, there's some interesting, I will see points that you have there. And one of the things I kind of, sometimes, you have the answer inside of you. You just have to kind of sleep over it, relax a little bit and, kind of take this through to another level. I think one of the things is the power of our subconscious mind, which we can go back to it and, ask, hey, I have the answer. I just need it out. So, as sometimes, it's unbelievable how much we have inside of us, power, and we actually not take it out and unreveal it, or take it out to next level to be able to use it. And it's very important for us to understand, what actually we need, and where to find that, I would say, power within us, and to get it out, to push ourselves to the limits. Because regarding that, 4 minutes, yeah, it was 4 minutes. I remember the story that everybody will say that it's impossible from the standpoint of view of the human body to get to that level, yeah. And it was a law to that point. You cannot get there because that's the law. Well, if somebody breaks the law, guess what? Now you can get there. And it's the same thing with our mind. We say it's impossible because, well, that's why we learn. It's impossible. As long as we accept that one, well, we're never going to do anything better than we are currently doing. For us to do something better than that, well, we have to go to the next level, which is accepting that we can do better than that, accepting that it's not the law, and accepting the fact that we're going to be pushing our limits over what is known for ourselves or for others, and defining the odds. Because at the end of the day, everybody that's an entrepreneur and trying to do better and it's successful is received from the society as an odd person. We're never going to receive like, oh yeah, that's great. No, you're going to be pinpointed, and then you're like, hey, you're not us.
We want to do things for ourselves, not for others.
Yeah.
And, getting back to that freedom triangle, one of the secrets on that download is, what are your dependencies?
Yeah.
And that's where you identify, maybe you're not honey badger enough. Maybe you care too much about what other people think. And
Hey. Yeah. No, I'm saying, yeah, it's true.
And it's so powerful when you are able to move past that, because you operate freely at that point. You're unchained. You have reached a state of feeling limitless in your abilities. Kind of like Roger Bannister obviously got to that point where he was physically able to push through. He didn't have that mental barrier, because if he did have that mental barrier, he wouldn't have accomplished breaking the 4-minute mile.
Yeah.
It's very, very empowering. And it's empowering to feel empowered and to have gotten yourself to that point. But there's always pain involved, pain and struggle. And the more pain and struggle you go through, the more resilient you are, the deeper your threshold is.
Makes me think a lot about David Goggins. You're into David Goggins?
I know David Goggins, and yes, absolutely. I mean, from that mindset standpoint, you need to be able to be the hardest person on yourself. And if you're not, you can't expect to become the best version of yourself. And, some people don't necessarily care about that, and that's fine. But don't fool yourself. If you're saying that you want to do this and accomplish this, are you saying it because you mean it and you believe it and you're willing to pay the price? Or are you saying it because that's what everybody else is saying and that's what you believe you should be saying? Because it's okay to not want to be the best version of yourself. I mean, clearly, millions of people on the planet that's not necessarily how they're operating, and that's okay. But I would say save yourself time and resources and stress, and figure that out. Figure out, again, like Tim Grover was talking about, find out who you are. If you know who you are, you navigate. I was in a mastermind and Tim Grover asked that question. He said, who here knows who you are? And I raised my hand right away, because I know who I am. I know what I let guide me. And that doesn't change regardless of the situation, of what my endeavors are. That's always going to be there.
Do you have a mission, a vision? Anything that, do you have a mission, a vision, something that drives you?
Well, yes, I wish to, I more than wish, I plan to help people find their freedom triangle because it's a state of freedom that's indescribable. As I discussed in the book, some of you may be familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, while it serves a purpose, I believe that we are in a different state of being in 2020. And having self-actualization, which is the top tier of Maslow's hierarchy, is not enough because you could feel fulfilled. I did that after the military, you know, getting back to why veterans struggle, you know, you're looking for that purpose. I found purpose in helping other veterans, you know, through volunteering with nonprofits and being there for veterans who needed me, you know, my friends, you know. I found purpose with that. I found what they would say self-actualization, but I wasn't fulfilled. And I didn't understand that. I mean, maybe I was for a short period of time, but then there was more in life because on one hand, you have my growth, you know, I realized I was addicted to growth. I talk about it in the book. When you look in the mirror and you finally learn you're addicted to growth, you know, you're going to be busy for the rest of your life because it's not about getting to that private island and sitting there and saying, I've gotten there. You know, I was in a training with there was an NFL pro that was there, and you know, he said he got to the point where you know he won his Super Bowl ring and he was excited, went upstairs to the hotel room, and then all of a sudden he felt so depressed, like so empty. You know what? And that's the thing, we need something pulling us forward. You could savor the moment and celebrate accomplishments, but you know, if you're true to yourself and you find yourself in that trajectory, I don't think you're ever going to really stop. You're going to continue.
I think that's really interesting you said that because a lot of successful people, you know, who I've heard speak or who I know, it's like, well, let's say you reach all your goals and you become either a millionaire or if you're already a millionaire, a multimillionaire. What are you going to do? Are you going to just, you know, just sail the world on your yacht? And time again, their answer is no, I'm going to keep doing this because this is what I love to do. You know, they're addicted to what they do because they love it so much. It doesn't feel like work to them. It's like a challenge. So it's their mindset is just so different.
Well, and also they're guided by, they know who they are and they have their values defined, and that's going to guide them. So when a situation occurs, say like what has happened here, well, there's been many situations that have happened here in 2020. So someone that's in that state knows what to do next, knows, okay, I have these skills and talents and resources. I'm going to go in this direction. I'm going to create something, or I'm going to start something. I'm going to make an impact this way or the other, because they're being called upon. They're being tested by the universe in a very surreal time to define themselves and how they're going to continue to lead. And all these folks, when you get to that point, you're a leader. I realize I am a leader. You know, even though my accomplishment list, if you will, if you're looking, you know, people think that's what defines a leader. No, it's what you do when you're tested. Do you rise up? You know, even if it's in your own little family, you know, like, are you going to be the one that's going to pull the family forward, or your business? Are you going to lead and pull everybody forward and through the situation? Or are you just going to fold into the system and let the system dictate what's going to happen and the environment dictate what's going to happen? So you have to make that decision. And, you know, the tough part about leadership, it's not always convenient, and it doesn't always come at your convenience, you know, but that's where you're tested. You know, what are you going to do at that point? And when you know your core beliefs and you know yourself well, and you've rid your thoughts and ideas of distractions, you can focus and you'll find the answers. And sometimes it's presented to you. Sometimes that opportunity to lead is presented to you and you just walk into that and that role. But sometimes you develop it on your own.
That is awesome. And so, see, we're almost running out of time. It's almost 9 p.m. here, and haven't even asked you. Did you want to tell us a little bit more about your? You have a fragrance line called Triangle Fragrance.
Yes, so Triangle Fragrance was launched this year. And what I really love about it is it ties to the Freedom Triangle. So there are 3 fragrances for men and 3 for women. I've released 2 of each, the red line and the white line. The blue line's due to come out in the fall. But it's not just a fragrance. And this is, I'm sharing this because it may help people to understand why I decided to, after the book and having developed the Freedom Triangle, instead of jumping right into developing the Freedom Triangle course, I developed a product, okay? Because I'm going to be able to introduce people to the Freedom Triangle via the fragrances, okay? Versus my book. There's some people that are just not going to read or just not going to learn about, listen to a podcast. So I wanted to have a physical product, but it tells a little bit about the Freedom Triangle. There's reference to it, that it was, Triangle Fragrance is inspired by the Freedom Triangle. And we all know the power of scent. But what I love most about it is the little self-help cards that come with each bottle. So each different fragrance has its own self-help card. And people are able, it's very durable, they could put it in their wallet or they can put it in their mirror in the morning and just read it, but that's my own unique way of providing self-help to people, in a way that I believe ties to the points of the Freedom Triangle, so that's the goal, to try to help people ultimately. And I'm absolutely loving introducing them to this through fragrance, because when I get feedback such as, I love the fragrance, but I love the card that comes with it, then I know it was worth it. Then I know that this investment, the hard work, long hours was worth it. And that's really what it's all about. So getting back to being your own unique self and doing you, do what no one else is doing, do you. You're going to find answers. And the clarity I had with the idea of launching the fragrance line was crystal clear. And it kind of literally came out of nowhere at the right time. And I expect other things will, my path will continue to unravel as I continue, because I'm true to my values and beliefs. And yes, business, yes, but ultimately it's about significance and making an impact on lives. And I'll tell folks who, if you haven't gotten to this point where you are making an impact on other people's lives, even if you've let go of pain of the past, hardship of the past, the ability to impact a life and get that feedback is priceless. And it erodes pain of the past. And I know a lot of people have been through some terrible things, some very horrible, horrific, absolutely, indescribable things. And the good news is they can literally erase all of that. You have that power within yourself.
Excellent. I love it. I love it. David Belmar says, Magda, thank you so much for the inspiring story and the wisdom. You are so much on point. Have lots of success and see you in the mentoring programs. Awesome. I agree with them.
I appreciate that. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. If anybody has any question about the Freedom Triangle or anything.
I have a question. So I love cologne. I have a little bit of a cologne collection there. Anyway, so where can I pick up a Freedom Triangle cologne or perfume?
Fragrance. It's available on trianglefragrance.com. That's my distribution point right now. I do have a few brick and mortar stores listed on the website throughout the country, and that's something I'm also looking to increase because of, particularly to serve the small businesses, because this will be the next great American brand. And with the struggles and regulations that different small brick and mortar businesses are dealing with right now, given what's going on across the country, some states worse off than others. I realize this is a revenue stream for them. I could drive traffic to their stores and keep those I'm not saying this alone is going to keep their stores afloat, but it's just my little way of doing things and making an impact. So if anybody here listening knows brick and mortar stores, and I'm not saying perfume stores necessarily, I have a tavern, wedding dress design shop, a boot store, so different types of stores because of the range of the fragrances in the customers that they serve, between victory, clarity, energy, and confidence. And 2 more coming out in the fall. So trianglefragrance.com. And, I'm on all the social medias, just started the YouTube channel, getting back to doing what no one else is doing. Started man on the street videos to get feedback from folks who try the fragrances, because of course, right now we are dealing with limitations with people being able to go to a store and open a box and try a fragrance because the store owners don't want somebody touching the box. So, anyway, there are always ways around it. So I'm enjoying finding a way to get around a tough situation, because that's what we should be doing. Don't always do what everybody else is doing necessarily. If it works, great, but you also want to make your impact and be a leader in that sense.
What inspired for the names of the perfume, just as an idea?
So I discussed, so the names, they tie back to the Freedom Triangle. They also tie back to what I speak about in the book. So they're aligned with my core beliefs and what I wrote about. So I'm looking at potentially doing a bundle where someone would get one fragrance and the book as well, because I'm finding that a lot of people are really interested in the story. There's a small reference, on the box and on the website to the Freedom Triangle. But so I may do that as a bundle, like a limited offer as well. Because I want people to really understand the power that they have and the power of the Freedom Triangle and the power of what they're able to do in their life once they let go of what's holding them back and they optimize themselves.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's a really cool idea. Kind of like a limited edition, like a box set with the fragrances and the book. Maybe even sign a few copies, like 50, copies, limited edition, like one of those type of. That's super cool. Yeah, I like that idea.
And just as the last question before everything, what do you will recommend for a person that starts right now as I would say, like, what are the first steps that in a journey for entrepreneurial, consider your experience that you have right now, your mentality, your strength, your everything that you wrote in the book, all the idea with the part of the core value, all the self-fulfillment and everything that we talk about. What do you will advise in a few words? Let's say you are to a coffee shop and you bump into somebody and what are you gonna tell that future entrepreneur how to put his gears together before starting anything?
Sure. Well, the most important thing is to take action, not just plan. Planning is important, but literally take action. You get a small win, get the domain name, go make a sale. As our mentors say, make a buck, turn over $1, have a transaction. Plant your flag. You have to take action. You can war game it to death. You can try to build a perfect business plan. But if you don't start to put things into motion, nothing is going to happen. And you're going to become frustrated, perhaps. So you want to take action. And then I would also find the person, could be a mentor, could be a friend, a peer, that is going to find the holes in your idea and listen closely. And you may not like what they have to say, but that's okay, because that's going to help sharpen what it is you're trying to do. Because the worst thing is to waste time. There's always value in lessons that we learn, but just like I can't say I wasted 8 years of my life because I was functional and I did do things, but part of the reason I wrote the book is because I want other folks who find themselves in a similar situation of struggle to have some clues, have some guidance to them, even if they don't seem to believe that they have it right now, and realize that they have that power within themselves to turn their lives around and change their situation. So the same applies to entrepreneurship. And the beauty about it is we live in America. It's the land of opportunity here. And it's amazing what we're able to do if you really commit and take that first step.
So it's everything about, for you, it's everything about that commitment and taking the first step.
Absolutely, because without that, you're wasting time. You're, pretending. You're playing the concept of somebody that wants to build a business. But if you're making excuses, or, you're not stepping into that cold water, or, off the diving board, like, come on, what are you waiting for? Do it.
You have to push it. You have to push it.
You have to. You have
That's
to.
not an option. Well, Magda, thank you very much for all the knowledge, all the wisdom, everything that you shared with us. It was just amazing. And I wish, like we can have like a second session and we'll be more deeper, to one point, maybe when you're going to launch your blue line, blue line, you said blue line. Yeah. So when you're going to launch the blue line, maybe you're going to come with a story behind that one. So we're going to know exactly what's going on. And more than happy to free up, so sometime, and make sure that we're gonna have a nice, interesting session for that one. And because I think there's more to say from your story and more things to learn about what you have there. And I'm more than happy to hear more about you and with all your journey and everything that's going on, because I think it's very interesting. And looking forward for that audiobook, even if I already hear it, but I'm still looking for that audio. I know a lot of people, they're going to look for that audio book as well, not only the hard copy version.
It's on the list for sure. The thing about fragrance, it takes, time. It takes, several months to develop it. Like, you can't just overnight, I want to create this. So I have to be respectful to that timeline. And prioritize that in that sense. But yes, absolutely. I will certainly be doing an audio for the book soon. And in fact, in the interim, I will probably be doing audiograms with certain areas of the book, because again, it's kind of interesting to see that in a year where, I wrapped this up, we're in August, about a year ago. I wrapped, well, a little earlier, I wrapped it up to send it to book production. And, I will reference and read certain portions of it, and it kind of gives me the chills even. I won't lie, like reading some of what I wrote a year ago and how applicable it is to today and to what's going on in the world and in our country today. And as a result, I do plan on doing audiograms to read portions, paragraphs and sections, and sharing it that way, with my voice on social and through the newsletter. So, but I am so grateful to Peter and Tony for allowing me the time to speak tonight to this esteemed audience. And I encourage everybody here, if anything that I covered tonight, resonate with you, or if you have more questions, please, by all means, do connect with me, because I'm here to serve. And as I discussed, that's really what it's all about.
Awesome stuff, Magda.
Has the information, so we can give it to everybody. So if they want to reach you, they can reach you. Where they can reach you, how they can get in touch with you, except the fragrance. If they have any Instagram, Facebook, can you please share it with us so we can?
Absolutely. I'll type it here in the comments, but it's my social, like Instagram. It's at magda.khalifa.usa. Thank you, Eugene. And Vedra, thank you. And so there's I also have a Facebook, official Magda Khalifa, and then email address, americandreamthebook@gmail.com if you prefer email. And yeah, by all means, I'm happy to connect with anybody I can help.
Thank you very much.
I'm adding you right now, Magda, because I know I have the fragrance line, I think on my Facebook or my Instagram. So I'm adding you right here as we speak. So yeah, there you are. Very cool. You pop right up. Awesome. Well, I'm looking very, very forward to all your projects. Love hearing you speak. You're very inspiring. Powerful mindset. And again, I can't thank you enough for your time this evening on a Sunday to join us. Definitely like to stay connected with you and learn, about everything you have going on in the future. So thank you so much.
The pleasure was mine. Thank you, everybody, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Bye, Magda. Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys. Have a great week, everybody.